Hi. So in this course, TEFL and TESOL guidelines, I'm going to tell you another module that you need to prepare yourself with before you go for this certification, which is phonology. Now, what is it? It's a study of how sounds are organized and used in natural languages. Well, pronunciation is a tricky business because it is determined still by where you belong to, which place you belong to. Even people from a similar community, the native speakers of the English speakers from a similar community also have a different way of pronouncing certain words. And in English language, pronunciation has various concepts that you need to prepare yourself with, like the stress, the syllables. The word is comprising of, two, three, or four syllables. You need to know about that. You need to memorize the stress pattern. Similarly, as you memorize anything in order to pronounce a certain word properly, because intonation, the rise and fall in the voice. Why? Because otherwise the language will sound very monotonous. In order to sound in a proper way, you need to know about the pronunciation, and this is another module that is very important in the certification that you are desiring. So learn about the pronunciation, which comprises of syllable sounds, the stress, the intonation, because it will give rhythm to a particular sentence that you are speaking. There are certain words that you'll have to speak in a louder volume. So even there are vowel sounds and the consonant sounds that you need to go through. Like there is a long vowel sound and there is a short vowel sound. So knowing about the phonetics, the phonology is very important. One of the ways in order to learn pronunciation is tongue twisters. That will also give you a headway to be prepared for the pronunciation. So thank you. That was all for this lecture, and stay tuned for the next lecture, and I'll tell you about another module that you need to thorough with before going for this certification. Thank you. Hi, in this course, the guidelines for teaching English as a foreign language and teaching English to the speakers of other language, the module that today I'm going to tell you that is very important again is the vocabulary. In order to speak any language, you need to acquire vocabulary. Well, there is a way that you can go about acquiring vocabulary, and the teaching methodology that I'm going to tell you some pointers on it. Well, in order to be acquainted with a new word, you need to come across the same word like 10 to 16 times before you can retain that particular word. Now, the best methodology to teach would be through flashcards, through Scrabble game, quizzes. Then there are other ways where you can use question guessing the word through question answers. There are various ways to make the vocabulary lesson and the module interactive. Yes, we got to teach it in a communicative way. You can use props, and then you can ask them to identify. So you can use strategies, exercises, and activities in order to teach vocabulary. It said that you got to know like 2,000 to 3,000 words in order to use the language and identify the words in comprehensions without any difficulty, so that you can read the language properly. Well, another way is to repeat it. When a person sees and listens to the word repetitively, he is able to acquire it as well. The instructions that needs the best way to instruct vocabulary
is through using the new words in different contexts. Like you can ask them to take out antonyms, synonyms, frame silly questions using that new word, or frame stories, create stories with the new word that is learned. uh, then another way to inculcate that word into your memory is making sentences of that particular word using it in different contexts. That way, the word will be clear to you and the meaning will also be clear to you, and you'll be able to identify it when it's used in a comprehension, and you'll be able to you'll be able to read difficult comprehensions as well. So go through a vocabulary module, because it is also an important aspect, or the module, if you want to have the certification of TEFL and TESOL. Thank you.
Hi, in this module, I'll be telling you yet another module that is important in this course, which is especially we doing masters of TEFL and TESOL. So the lesson plan is the module that is again very important if you want to get certification in TEFL and TESOL. So lesson planning is being prepared before you go to the class. So you got to jot down the entire day plan. What are you going to teach to the students based on their needs to learn, based on their understanding, the current understanding. You got to take that into consideration as well. The lesson plan is divided into following stages. Like the first stage is the warm up stage, where you can give them activities to in the form of games and exercises to refreshen up the previous lesson that you have covered. Then the next stage is the introduction of the lesson plan, which is around 2 to 5 minutes, where you are going to create an environment to introduce your lesson to go about that particular day. Then the next stage is presentation of a lesson, what all things you are going to cover, and that too you got to take care that you have to make the session very interactive and communicative. So the presentation, how will you start with, maybe you can use the vocabulary of the target language, and then give them exercises, make it a structured, give it a structured activity. That I'll tell you about the structured activity in this next lesson. I mean, structured activities, something where student centric activity is followed through an exercise that you give. For example, it's greeting and introduction is the plan. You have to cover greeting and introduction, so you have to give them structured sentences where they can practice in group. The session should take place in groups, and where everybody is has been divided into certain groups, maybe some average, some above average students, a combination of them, depending on the type of activity. Maybe you can make an homogeneous group for some other activities, so that is completely up to your knowledge. Then the next stage is, there are three parts of a presentation stage, where you start with the structured activity, then give them a semi-structured activity. Maybe you can give them fill in the blanks in this based on the same previous structured activity, where you give them sentences for greeting and introduction, and they have to fill the sentences. And the third part is the unstructured activity, where they can exercise a particular concept or topic independently, and they are able to easily go about it. The next stage is practice. Now the presentation stage can take about 30 minutes or more than that, and the practice stage is the next stage, that is also very important, which can take about 30 to 40 minutes. So
Plan it and keep the timing and how much time will a particular stage takes place, because you always get certain hour of a particular particular lesson to cover, an hour or 1.5 hour to cover a particular lesson. Then the next stage is a practice stage where they practice whatever they have learned. Then you can evaluate them just to check the understanding of the students, what they have learned, in a formal testing method, or a quiz or something where they are not graded. The next one is application, to reinforce the knowledge when they are going back home, or after the lesson they can practice. So the application through giving them some activity or and something to practice so that it ingrains in their memory. While framing a lesson plan, you need to keep in mind that what are the students' expectation and what they want to learn, and also align with your students' current level of understanding. So the skills that are needed to be developed are listening, reading, speaking, writing skills. So your lesson plan should be based on certain parameters. So these are the parameters: listening, reading, writing skills. Maybe you cover it with exercises or activities. That's completely up to you, but you have to take it that all these four skills needs to be developed, which are listening, reading, speaking, and writing. Thank you. I'll come up with yet another module that is important for the certification of TEFL and TESOL. So thank you.